you're going to see my administration continue to push for change amongst all districts, but we're going to take a very aggressive approach for districts that are not trying to improve.
Oklahoma's largest school district is at risk of losing its accreditation. Today, State Superintendent Ryan Walters outlined the areas of focus when it comes to making that decision and called for new district leadership ahead of a vote on the district's accreditation. We're digging into all of that tonight, as well as reaction from educators and parents. But first, Fox 25's Adam King is breaking down concerns that Walters brought up in his press conference today.
Yeah, there are four really major points, Wendy, that we got to get to. We're talking about reading proficiency, some of the failing schools, financial mismanagement, per pupil funding. Now, Walters first dug into poor achievement outcomes, including reading proficiency, right? That's the big focus as we started today. Walters says just 12% of Tulsa students are reading proficient compared to 21% in 2018.
This is tragic for Tulsa students. The state average of reading proficiency is 27.9%. So Tulsa public school students are reading at less than half of the same percent of most public school students in the state of Oklahoma. 15 elementary schools, you have less than 5% students reading proficient.
Now, the superintendent also spoke about school ratings. He says most students in Tulsa attend a school on the F list.
So 65% of schools in the district are on the F list. What that means is they're in the bottom 5% of schools in the state of Oklahoma. Not only does Tulsa represent this large percentage of failing schools, I want to give you another key category. That is what we refer to as MRI. That's the more rigorous intervention schools. So these are schools that have been on the F list for 5 years straight. So they've never come off the F list, right? Tulsa Public Schools makes up 42% of MRI schools.
Walters also criticized the district about financial issues. He says throughout the accreditation process, they have seen tremendous red flags.
So one of the things that we saw as we began digging into Tulsa's accreditation and reports from board members at Tulsa Public Schools that the superintendent had not provided financial documents and reports that they had requested. Then as we began to dig further, of course, we know about the $1 million of misappropriated funds. $1 million. This is the largest amount we've seen in the last couple of years. And when you couple that with the audit findings of the last 3 years, so for 3 years in a row, Tulsa Public Schools has in their audit report that they lack the appropriate internal controls of finances.
Walters says that Tulsa Public Schools receives more per pupil funding than most public schools in the state of Oklahoma. The average school gets just more than $10,000 per pupil in funding. Now, Tulsa gets nearly $1,500 more per student, but Walters doesn't think that money is spent very appropriately, adding that 48% of that funding actually gets to the classroom.
Instead of resources for teachers, instead of higher teacher pay, instead of every single child in Tulsa Public Schools having the best math, reading, science curriculum available, we have more administrative positions.
Now, Superintendent Walters says the district has to compile an action plan. They want to improve some of those academic outcomes. He says by the end of the year, the district should at least be at the state average when it comes to reading performance. Also says the district needs to reorient their finances, get that funding to the classroom while being transparent to the taxpayers.
Walters is also calling for the TPS superintendent to be removed from leadership. He blames many of the district's issues on her.
Tulsa Public Schools is a bus being driven by Superintendent Deborah Gist. That bus has veered off the road. That bus has gone into a ditch. And now that bus has crashed right into a tree. It is time to change leadership in Tulsa. It is time to put this district back on the right direction.
The state has several categories when it comes to accreditation status of school districts. Accredited with no deficiencies means all standards are being met. Accredited with deficiencies means the district or site fails to meet one or more of the standards. The next step is accredited with warning. That means the district fails to meet one or more standards and the deficiency seriously takes away from the school's educational program. Accredited with probation shows failure to fix those problems or consistent violation of rules. schools. And finally, non-accredited. This means the school site will no longer be recognized by the State Board of Education, and colleges may not recognize a diploma or school credits. Tulsa's accreditation was downgraded to accreditation with warning last July after the board ruled it violated the state's anti-critical race theory law. Last month, the board voted to push back the accreditation decision. OSDE is expected to take the issue up at the next Board of Education meeting. That's on August 24th. Now, the first day of school for TPS is August 17th. That's when students go back. Losing accreditation could cost Tulsa big when it comes to funding from the state and federal government. We heard from some Tulsa parents last month sharing their concerns.
To say that you're going to wait to do our accreditation, it's never been done. All the schools' accreditations come up for renewal in July, and that's it. So no one has ever delayed it. To say you're going to delay it, Superintendent, makes us all wonder what's going to happen. What happens when you don't have approved accreditation for the next school year?
The August 24th meeting will begin at 9:30 a.m. and it will be streamed online.
State Superintendent Ryan Walters has also accused Tulsa Public Schools of taking money from the Chinese government with the purpose of undermining the United States government. He posted a video from his car last week sharing what he says he found.
I've been looking more and more into what's going on at Tulsa Public Schools, and it's just been unbelievable to find out that they're one of the only schools in the country taking money from the Chinese government. You have communist China that is giving money to Tulsa Public Schools in order to try to undermine our United States government, our country. It's unbelievable. There is absolutely no way we should allow the Chinese government to undermine our institutions here in America.
The superintendent clarified what he was referencing further on his Twitter account, sharing a post which was fact-checked and found inaccurate by Twitter. Walters' claim that China is funding Tulsa schools is false. What he's referring to is cultural and language outreach programs nicknamed Confucius Institutes. Tulsa Public Schools has one of these programs, but it exists strictly as a cultural enrichment program, and the funding is exclusively for this program.
Tulsa's not the only district to have their accreditation brought into question. Mustang Public Schools had their accreditation downgraded to accreditation with warning in August of 2022. This stemming from an alleged violation of House Bill 1775, which is seen as a ban against teaching critical race theory. The violation in question was a complaint about a, quote, privilege walk activity in a leadership class.
If walking alone at night, you never have to worry about anyone feeling threatened because of you.
Oh.
Guys, we should have our eyes closed. Why is everyone just
What does that mean? Is it asking if
why are all these questions about race?
Educators and community members spoke out about the accreditation downgrade as the district filed an appeal to the decision.
We love these teachers. They're not indoctrinators. They're not woke. They're our community.
Motion to discuss the appeal was not approved. Mustang superintendent told Fox 25 that the district will not be implementing the exercise in its schools again.
That's your big story breakdown. You can find more on Tulsa Public Schools and accreditation concerns on our website, okcfox.com.